I don't think it's too much of a hot take to say that Elon feels like kind of a busy guy. He's got a lot of things going on, and frankly, I think that you're crazy if you think he's all evil or all bad. Like all people, he's somewhere in the middle. But ultimately, if we all put aside our political differences for a second, I think that Elon is an accelerator when it comes to most of his companies. He's great when the times are tough and things are not looking good. He is literally addicted and attracted and obsessed with challenges. He loves it when people tell him that something is impossible or something can't be done, and that's why he was able to tackle such incredible feats of engineering like figuring out reusable rocket boosters or profitably mass producing, by the way, electric vehicles. And when the stakes are pushed up against him, I think that's when he thrives. That's when he does well, and he's still tackling that now with X. I've got a whole rant video, so if you think I'm an Elon fanboy, please watch that rant video over on Talos of Tech, because that's a lot more of an Elon hit piece than this one is going to be. But the truth is, Tesla is, I think, undoubtedly and undeniably at this point, a success story. It's incredibly profitable. They've got billions and billions of dollars in the bank. They have some of the best-selling cars in the world now, and I think they have fundamentally changed the narrative around electric vehicles. It used to be this, oh, I don't know if that's fundamentally gonna work, I don't even think it's profitable, to now, okay, when are all other automakers now going to switch to EVs? And now the question is no longer, are EVs the future? The question is, who is going to survive the transition to EVs? And I personally credit most of all of that narrative change to Tesla, and now they're included in the S&P 500. They're nearly $1 trillion company, which is personally why I think Elon has done a great job. He's contributed a lot to Tesla. He was fundamental in the founding and the core roots of the company. I genuinely don't think we would have a Tesla today if it weren't for him, and yet I think it's time for him to step down. I don't think he really needs to be there anymore, and that's mostly because it is no longer in, I think, Elon's best interest or Tesla's best interest, because Elon does well and thrives the most when the odds are stacked against him, when a company is in a startup mode, when cash is not plentiful, and frankly, when the company is not too big. I think a Neuralink or something like that, or XAI, is a perfect scenario for Elon because the odds are against him, and he's in startup mode, and he's trying to figure out those core fundamentals of what the company needs to be. And honestly, I think SpaceX is another huge success, but it is still riding a lot on the success of this Starship rocket. Like, Starlink satellites are in desperate need of Starship launches in order to maintain the Starlink network and put up next generation satellites, which they're having to condense down and take out features to fit on the Falcon 9 rocket. And ultimately, SpaceX wants to make life multiplanetary, which isn't really achievable with the Falcon 9. So the core mission, I think, of SpaceX has not really been achieved yet, even though they've achieved a lot of miraculous things, which is why I think Elon needs to spend way more time on XAI, on Neuralink, on Hyperloop, the Boring Company, and of course SpaceX, because those are in more desperate need of that accelerator mindset, that startup mindset that he is so good at. Tesla, I think, is getting into that point where it's so big, you know, it's publicly traded, we got mutual funds and index funds buying into Tesla stock now. It's such a big company, and in a lot of ways, the mission statement, I think, has already been achieved. The goal of Tesla was to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, and even if Elon mysteriously died or disappeared tomorrow and was no longer around, I think Tesla wouldn't really change all that much. The goals have been achieved. They have created vehicles across most major segments, and now the battle of Tesla is just about scaling up production, which in a lot of ways they've already achieved thanks to this amazing crew that we saw at Investor Day. Incredible people working there like Zach Kirkhorn, Tom Zhu, and in my personal opinion, who needs to be the CEO of Tesla, Drew Baglino. He is the VP of Battery and Powertrain Engineering, which also puts him in charge of the supercharging network. And frankly, I think Drew Baglino, who's worked at Tesla for a long time, is basically been in charge of everything at Tesla that we love, everything we're so thankful for, like, of course, the reliability and the availability of the supercharger network, the incredible NAC port design, the battery packs, and how Tesla's been able to manufacture them at scale and get the pricing down and the energy density high enough to be mainstream. And I think as Elon is getting more and more busy with all of his side projects, it's important to have a new face for the company, someone that's kind of kicking off the announcements and kind of leading the earnings calls. And when Tesla does these events, you want someone to root for, you know, how Apple had their Steve Jobs and now they've got their Tim Cook. And even though Tim definitely doesn't have the same charisma or style that Steve did, people still get excited when they see Tim. They're like, wow, wow, that's the CEO, that's the man on top, that's the guy in charge. And frankly, while Elon has an incredible backstory and a lot of street credit, I think a lot of people can admit he's not the best presenter on stage. He kind of stumbles a lot and talks over himself, and he makes a lot of promises on stage that he can't necessarily keep. And in a lot of ways, he's kind of become the mascot for Tesla. Like at the last few earnings calls and investor days, I've seen times where people go up and just start asking Elon questions that have nothing to do with the company. And okay, I get it. Cool. I'm talking to Elon Musk. I want to ask him how he's doing today. That's all fun and dandy. But when he's now running a company and we're having shareholder meetings and investor days, and there are ginormous mutual funds and huge investors from all around the world buying into Tesla, and then we waste Elon's time by asking him, how was that party you went to last night? It's like, okay, Elon is actually becoming a bit more of a distraction from Tesla and their core mission statement, in my opinion. And honestly, he's gotten really, really obsessed over the past few years with Tesla's AI development and their self-driving tech. And he seems to love making claims on the earnings calls and the reports saying that, oh yeah, we're really close, guys. Oh yeah, robotaxi, that's the future. The profitability of Tesla is mostly going to be about self-driving. It's not really going to be about the cars. And I'm not trying to say I can predict the stock market, because I can't, but literally every time Elon says that, the earnings calls, which are supposed to be a sign of confidence and it's supposed to be more of a stock boost, typically results in the stock going down. When Elon says like, oh yeah, we don't really care if our cars are profitable because self-driving is really what's going to make us money. It's like, okay, I don't have proof that Elon knows how to build a level 4, level 5 self-driving system, but I have been proven 6 to 7 times that Elon doesn't know when self-driving is going to be ready, because for many, many years now, he keeps saying, oh yeah, next year or later this year, it's going to be ready, and then it's not. Time after time after time. So there's like a proven track record of, you don't know. You really genuinely don't know when this is going to happen. And I think because Elon loves when the odds are against him, and he loves when people are doubting him or saying that he's wrong, that's why most of his time at Tesla is probably being spent with Optimus and the Tesla bot and the self-driving team. At least anytime he talks with Tesla, like at Investor Day, he seems to be talking alongside the guys working on the neural net training and the full self-driving computer, and he loves talking about robotaxis and Optimus taking over the labor force. I think that's what he's most interested in, and in interviews recently, he admits that he started XAI because there were some people that he wanted to start an AI company with that didn't want to work at Tesla. So he said, okay, I still want to work with these people, but if they're not willing to work at Tesla, we'll start a new startup called XAI, and I can work on it with them. And honestly, now that Tesla has admitted that they're going to start licensing out FSD to other automakers, and there's already apparently a major automaker that has approached Tesla and asked to license FSD from them, I would be kind of okay if after all of these promises and all of these missed deadlines, that we kind of separate the full self-driving tech away from Tesla a little bit. At least it sounds like it's not going to be restricted to just Teslas anymore in the future. At least on the last earnings call, they seem to be pretty upfront about that. Like, yeah, another automaker's approaching us to license it. So I personally, for the same reason, don't think Tesla needed to buy out Twitter. I would say XAI can take over the full self-driving tech and all of the development that goes into the Tesla bot and how that software works. And XAI can just partner with Tesla for the self-driving tech, and Elon can work at XAI, and then Tesla, the company, can focus more on what I think they do best, which is manufacturing and vehicle software. Just focus on, all of that charging curve tech and how to make the car more intuitive, how to improve the infotainment, and maybe focus on features that people have been asking for, whether that be a bird's eye view or CarPlay or improved navigation updates, because Google Maps on my Tesla continues to suck and keeps telling me to take these terrible routes, and the battery estimator is way off all the time. So I think Tesla as a company is big enough that it could survive under the leadership of Drew Baglino, who has so much more confidence and carries himself so well on stage. Like, if you go back and watch Tesla's Battery Day in 2020, it's basically Drew Baglino explaining what Tesla's plan is to transition the whole world to more sustainable energy forms, and Elon jumping in, interrupting, saying, well, yeah, but that's actually hard to do, really hard work, very, very difficult. It's going to take a long time to do this. And Drew's just correcting him the whole time, saying, yeah, no, it's not easy, but we have a path, and we're already executing on that path. And then in the same way, I would compare it to Apple. Steve Jobs was crucial in the creation and ramp up phase of making Apple a well-known worldwide brand, but simultaneously, Tim Cook was the guy who scaled it. He was the one who took over, and honestly, Apple has done amazingly well ever since he took over, finding ways of ironing out the supply chain, making more products, diversifying on the lineup, and addressing more and more people as much as possible. And some amazing tech has come out under the Tim Cook ownership of Apple. And I think a very similar thing could happen with Elon stepping away and deciding, I'm going to focus more on SpaceX and XAI and Neuralink. And then Drew Baglino can just take over Tesla and say, let's focus on ramping up our batteries, lowering the price of manufacturing with new methods, new composites, new materials, and expanding on our supercharging network, as we're now basically going to have to be carrying all electric vehicles into the future. Ford, GM, Mercedes, Rivian, they're all going to be using the supercharger network now too. So all of that kind of stuff, I don't really get the feeling that Elon is working on much anymore. He's just focused on, well, self-driving, it's coming. Tesla bot, it's coming. And he keeps telling us that over and over and over. And I think it just keeps annoying most of the big shareholders. And a lot of people are like, okay, how many times, Elon? How many times are you going to promise us this? And if you keep missing the deadlines, we're just not going to believe you anymore. And sadly, he will be the boy who cried FSD. But I don't see Drew Baglino that way. Basically, he only shows up on the earnings calls when he has real world, tangible, like updates to talk about when it comes to here's how our battery production is going, here's how our energy density is going, and here's how our vehicle manufacturing ramp is going. And because the CEO needs to be someone who's very confident and very smooth on stage, good at making announcements and good at being thematic and knows how to carry himself, personally, out of everybody on the Tesla board, I think Drew Baglino has worked there for a long time. He's best suited to run that company, and he knows how to focus on what matters most with the brand, which is ramping up vehicle manufacturing. Drew never seemed to care too much about what happens with self-driving, because he's like, whether or not we figure out self-driving, we just need to figure out how to ramp up production of these vehicles and how to have an infrastructure to support them, which automatically puts them way ahead of all other EV automakers, because most of them are not putting that much emphasis on the charging network or how to build their vehicles profitably. That's why Tesla is pretty much the only profitable EV maker. And that's fine if Elon wants to keep making promises he can't keep about self-driving and robo-taxis and how Tesla bot's going to replace all jobs. Yeah, that's fine. I would just suggest he do it over at XAI. And I don't think Elon likes running a public company anyway. He joked about taking Tesla private several times, so let's just keep XAI private. Tesla can license the self-driving stuff from XAI, and we have a really great partnership between those two brands. But there was a time not too long ago where Elon said, I'm only going to be on the earnings calls if there's something bad going on. Most of the time, I'm not going to be free for these things anymore. And then he didn't show up once, and then on every earnings call after that, he kept showing up, even though things were not in dire circumstances. Tesla's honestly been doing great, and with the amount of time he seems to be spending on Twitter, or X, and the fact that Starship is in desperate need of more tests and more regulatory approval, and there's all kinds of work that needs to be done at Neuralink, he's a real busy guy, and I'm sure he can get some amazing work done. I just don't think it needs to be done at Tesla, basically. Like, I just think there's really confident and competent people there that know how to manage a big company and not make promises they can't keep, and just focus on ramping up production, diversifying the lineup, and expanding on the supercharger network. And that's what I think Drew Baglino, as well as Tom Zhu, he would be another great choice. He oversaw the ramp up of production in Giga Shanghai, although I kind of feel like at this point, Tesla and China has to abide by so many different rules and regulations over there that Tom Zhu should basically just be in charge of Tesla and all those Asia markets, and maybe Drew Baglino can mostly handle North America and maybe the expansion into South America with Giga Mexico. There doesn't need to be necessarily just one guy that has all the power, but if someone has to hold the title of CEO, I think it should be Drew. And no, it's not just because we have the same first name, but that does definitely sway me in his favor. Who do you guys think should be CEO? Do you think Elon should stay? Do you think he should go? Feel free to speculate along with me down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.